Hey, Dennis O'Brien back again on Let's Talk About It. Susan Johnson has not yet appeared. She is on her way, I think, from Hartford. She's always at the Capitol these days. A lot of things going on down there, and she's very busy and takes it very seriously. And speaking about taking things seriously, I've got with me today somebody making his WILI radio debut on Let's Talk About It. I'm so proud. This is our new Fire Chief, Ron Palmer Jr., and he is with us today on the heels of a wonderful evening last night at the Town Hall in the Bellingham Auditorium. We had a pinning ceremony. He was sworn in actually a couple of weeks ago, right, Ron?
Correct, yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but he had to be sworn in at the Town Council meeting, but went through the ceremonial proceeding last night with the family and friends and co-workers and people from all over town. It was a huge crowd, and he picked the right person to be the MC. I guess you picked him, Scott Card?
I did, yeah. So Scott started about 6 months before I did in the fire department, and he's currently the senior person in the firehouse. He's the senior captain, and I thought it appropriate, because there is no deputy chief currently, to have Scott kind of head up the ceremony.
That was good. Well, yeah, he did a great job, and the whole thing went off like clockwork. The town manager spoke, did very well, and the keynote speaker was Ron Palmer Jr. himself, the new chief, and you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you. I was stressing out leading up to that. I wanted to make sure that I didn't overdo it with the speech, and that was the whole joke. If for people that were there that are listening, for an icebreaker, I brought out like a 4-inch binder just loaded with some old paperwork in it, but the effect was I had so much to say that I had it dictated, and this was transcribed, and this was the product, and I think the acoustics in the room, some people didn't get the joke, but it seemed like the majority did, and that was a good transition into a 4-page speech that I wanted to say, and most of the remarks kind of reflected upon my personal development as well as the impact that other people have had on my career, and it was also just a message to the community. It was also a message to the members of the fire department. Basically focused on the mission, the leadership role that I'm stepping into, and, our commitment to the community.
Well, I've gotten to know the chief a lot better in the last several months because I'm on the Willimantic Taxing District Board of Directors, which is sort of like a board of finance for the police and fire departments. And I was on it before, actually, when I was on the town council, but because I was on the town council too, those of us who were on the town council as well as on this board really didn't put enough time into it. We didn't learn a lot. We learned, but we didn't know. We aren't as well versed as we are now. We've got a group that's very, very much interested in doing all we can to support public safety in Willimantic, and of course, the fire department goes beyond Willimantic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not only do we provide fire and we do EMS as well, and that's a large portion of what we do. It's almost 80% of our workload, which covers the entire town of Windham. And then a few years back, Windham contracted with the town of Chaplin to extend transporting services to that community as well. So, and then you also have mutual aid. A lot of our surrounding communities have grown. Their resources are maxed out, so on many occasions they have multiple calls for service to respond to. They cannot meet all the requirements, so we respond mutual aid. And on the flip side, we also receive a lot of mutual aid too, because this community has a high rate of incidents that we need to cover as well. And we can't be in 10 places at once. So.
Yeah, I've had the experience in my family of having a horrible fire up on 125 Summit Street, my daughter's house, and I think it was in 20. Oh God, it was the year.
I know exactly when that was.
2006, I believe.
2006. It was absolutely correct, and the fact is, earlier that day I was sworn in as fire captain.
Wow!
And then that night we responded for the fire.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, because we live right around the corner, and to see you all in action and save that house, that house which is, it's an old 19th century house
Sure.
with balloon construction, and those things go up real fast.
Yep.
And that house was saved, and it stands there still
Yeah.
after a lot of a lot of work was put into it, but the structure was saved, and it was an amazing job by Willimantic firefighters, and our family has had a very soft spot in our heart for the Willimantic firefighters and the surrounding firefighters. And I saw firefighters there from Mansfield. Of course, you guys were there first,
Sure.
and then the Wyndhams, and I think Lloyd Niles was there, and I think Mark Herrick was there. I saw a lot of people, and everybody was working together.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's the way society has to be. We have to work together. We have to do our best. Life isn't easy. There's a lot of problems. You have to adjust every day. For example, I had parked my car behind a building just now, and I was told when I got here I had to move it. And I running across the street, running back here, and wow, and you have to adjust. And in your job, and you've been a firefighter in Willimantic since 1996.
Correct. That's correct.
1996, and you're going to be 30 years in next year.
That's correct. Yeah, time flies. I can remember early on in my career being at the firehouse. It was a late night. We had a lot of calls that we answered, just sitting down and trying to decompress a little bit. And when I got hired, the department was very senior heavy. So a lot of the members had been there for a long time. And I said, wow, 25 years is what firefighters need to work in order to be eligible for a pension. And I thought, wow, 25 years, man, that's going to take forever. I just couldn't picture myself at that point. And then, like, almost in a blink of an eye, here you are looking back, and now you're reflecting back on all those years. And time does fly. And I'll tell you, when you have children, it flies even faster. But yeah, so 29 years currently. I wouldn't change a thing. I love every minute of it. It's a great, rewarding profession. And I'm, now that I'm in a leadership role in charge of the entire department, just want to keep that moving forward, keep that passion alive, keep engaging our members, so that we can continue to have the best customer service to the community and provide a great fire service and EMS service.
That's right. I have it right here in my notes. 2006, promoted to captain.
That's right.
So you remember that fire?
I do.
That was a notable fire.
Yeah, it was. The challenge with older buildings that have multiple levels is the building construction. First of all, a lot of voids. Fire will find those voids very quickly. So our tactics do adjust for these larger buildings with void spaces. So a building of that size, even though it's a residential property, still requires a lot of manpower and a lot of additional hose lines. And we got to get them into the right place. And we have to open up these voids so we can get to the fire.
Yeah, the west side of the house was close to the houses next door.
Sure.
And that was the hard part. We were concerned as we watched it can they save the west side?
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
And it was teamwork. It was amazing. There was everybody seemed to know what to do. Nobody was going around going, what do we do? And,
right.
and it was just so impressive. And I think one of the questions I want to ask you probably later on, I want to go through a little bit of your career.
Okay.
And then in what was it, 2012? It was 2020 that you were promoted to deputy chief.
Correct. Yeah, I think the COVID pandemic was kind of just gaining some speed there. And the chief and the town manager and many people too, the board of directors, they all kind of decided that it was time to have a deputy chief put in place. We had gone almost, I think, maybe 10 or 11 years at that point with the deputy chief's position kind of being unfunded, still on the books, but not funded. And with the pandemic, it kind of just made, everybody kind of realize that if something were to happen to the chief, who was going to be the second in command to kind of step up and continue leading the department. And then there's that management labor challenge, right? Do you want somebody from labor leading the department, or would you rather have somebody in management in that position as well? So that kind of kick-started and kind of forced the issue. They brought the deputy chiefs back. They had the funding for it. I applied. I believe I was the only internal candidate for the job. It was advertised to the outside. They had some fantastic candidates. Many were my friends at the time that had applied for the position. It was rigorous. I thought it was an excellent process. And fortunately, I came out on top. I can't be more thankful for the opportunity. I'm glad that they funded it. It was necessary. I think it was a great thing for the department. Now that I'm in the chief's position and the deputy chief's position is vacant, it will be a priority to try to get that filled.
Yeah, we've had Mark Scrivener on the air several times, and every once in a while, and some of it was during that period when he didn't have a deputy, and he always would bring that up, how he really needed to have a deputy. There's just too much for him to do both jobs, and I'm going to ask you. I know I brought up 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Last night when Scott Card was speaking about you, he mentioned a bunch of commendations that you had gotten.
Sure.
And one of the events he mentioned was an incident that happened in 62 South Street.
Yeah, that was.
I remember reading about that in the papers, and I was so impressed by what you did in that situation. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was 2012, August, I believe. I'm not sure the specific day, but it was August 2012. It was a night shift. Don't remember exactly what time it was. It was late, though. And 62, I think it was 60-62 South Street was a multifamily housing unit, 3 floors, big place. The front porch was completely engulfed in fire upon arrival. We were met, we had a lot of evacuating residents. One of those evacuees was the husband of the woman who was trapped inside on the 3rd floor. He gave us excellent directions. He knew exactly where he last saw her in the building. At the time, Captain Chad Miloshnik was, I believe he might have been a probationary member, which means he'd only been on the fire department for about a year. He was my partner. The two of us ascended 3 flights of stairs. The fire was in the front. It was starting to infiltrate the building and push towards the 3rd floor. So we went up the back stairs. We had to force entry because, as we learned later, the husband had jumped out of a window, so the door was still locked with a deadbolt. So we forced open the door. It was 0 visibility, high heat. We crawled in. We started to do our search tactics, and there was like a closet room on the left that I had actually missed. Chad was behind me. He was able to find the room. I went into the bedroom where she was reported to be. I quickly went through the search there. I did not find her there. As I was exiting the bedroom, I could hear Chad, yelling to me that he had found her. So I had I met up with him. We did locate her, and we were able to take her down 3 flights of stairs. When we got down to the bottom, we realized that she was in cardiac arrest. We performed CPR. The great outcome in this, even though tragic as it is, was that we saved a life. They were able to get her back, breathing. Unfortunately, a lot of the contaminants and the toxins in the smoke contributed to some other issues where she had suffered some severe disabilities as a result of that night. She was a grad student at UConn. She had her whole life ahead of her. So that's tragic. But we were able to save her life so that her family could be with her moving forward. So as a result of that fire, we were recognized. Actually, Susan, I think, had spearheaded a local recognition ceremony, as well as the State Fire Service. Someone had submitted the incident to Firehouse Magazine, which is a major trade journal in the fire service, and we actually received an award, a heroism award for that event. That's very nice to be recognized for the work that we do, but the satisfaction for us as firefighters is not so much the awards and the accolades, it's that we actually saved a life, which could have had a very drastic change had we not been there.
That's amazing, and I know in a much different way. When I was judge of probate, I saved a couple of lives by making the right decisions in terms of pulling the plug on people, and these people then survived. The family wanted to do it, and I said no. Yeah. I wasn't satisfied. Yeah. And the doctor even wanted to do it, and I said, doesn't sound right to me. I don't see it in the medical evidence. And I remember Jack Warnacci jumped out of his truck, ran over, and he says, "You saved that woman's life." And and Jack and I were never that close, and for him to say that to me was a thrill. Bless his heart. I miss Jack very much. He
he's a
lost
good guy.
him. Yeah, he was a good guy. He was good. A big part of this community. This community is a great community.
It is.
I mean, you grew up here.
I did.
And you went to school here.
I did. Yeah. I actually Noble School was my elementary school,
Wow.
which is now a dormitory.
My daughter went there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Kramer Middle School,
Yeah.
and then Wyndham High School, and then I went to the University of Connecticut.
Right.
So, I mean, I mentioned it last night in my speech when we were standing on the second floor of Town Hall. I motioned kind of west, and I said I grew up 4 blocks from here.
You did.
And 2 blocks in the other direction is the firehouse. And I
Yep.
used to ride my bike to the firehouse
Right.
because my father was working there. So, deep connections here. Family goes back, to turn of the century here. It's just, coming up through the school system, having lifelong friends and families and people still are here. A lot of people have moved away, but there's still a lot of people here that I still have a connection with.
Right.
And I think that as a firefighter, being able to serve the community that you grew up in is amazing.
Another thing that's unique about you is something I haven't mentioned, and I think some of our listeners probably know it anyway, is that your dad,
Yeah,
Ron Palmer Sr., was fire chief here.
he was. Yeah, just a great person all around. I've never heard anything really bad. People have always just tell me stories, and it's amazing. Some of the stories I've heard, but other stories are just new, and it's great to hear about their interactions with him. Committed to the community. He did 38 years of service for the fire department. He held every rank that he was available to promote to at the time. He did leave a legacy behind, and somebody's trying to get a hold of you. So, it is a great, it's a big responsibility, actually. I mean, it's a great feeling to be part of a legacy, but it's also, there's a responsibility there because, you want to make sure that you continue to do the best job you can and continue to serve honorably. And, you don't want to let anybody down. You kind of have a reputation to continue pushing forward. So,
Well, you are the 21st chief, according to what Scott said.
yeah.
And Al Bolio wasn't there to make sure that he was right. And I know Al Bolio very well.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the older guys. Joe Marcellisi, very good friend.
Yeah.
And saw him there last night. It was great to see him.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of the old people, old timers there. And
Sure.
Susan and I always attend the annual memorial.
Absolutely.
Which is a real great. It's beautifully done.
Yeah.
And we always go there, and it's nice. And I know I have a lot of friends whose fathers, and especially fathers, were firefighters too. And I know that we lost Larry Lemire. Larry Lemire was a good guy. He helped me get the girls softball program going. He was one of my first coaches.
Yeah.
His daughter Kim played, and he was a good guy. In fact, I have a nice picture that was taken by somebody outside of the firehouse at one of those events with me and Randall Prose and Larry Lemire.
Wow.
And I miss him. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So, that's the problem. We all come and go, and we lose people. And I lost a son last year. I mean, you lost your dad at way too early an age.
Absolutely.
My dad died at 50. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I just couldn't. I just carry. You got to carry on.
Yeah.
And doing the kind of work that you do, carry on is the message.
Absolutely.
You have to carry on.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think that just if I may, and one of the things I did mention last night, I mentioned both my parents are
Right.
they're both deceased, and
Right.
I mentioned them in my remarks last night,
You
and
did.
how profound of an impact they had on me as a child. We faced a lot of adversity back in the late 70s, early 80s, and my parents were divorced when I was 3, maybe 4. But they remained, ever present in our lives. I have 2 older sisters, and committed to their kids, and coaching and mentoring and teaching and just really kind of showing us what hard work does and how it pays off. And if you really want something, you got to work hard for it, and don't take anything for granted. There were times I can remember having a dinner on a Friday night at the soup kitchen. We went through some tough times growing up in those days, and I think it just makes you more resilient as an individual, but it also makes you appreciate life. And when you finally have a family of your own, those attributes that your parents instilled in you is what you pass on to your family, and you got to keep that going.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about you and your kids.
Sure.
After we come back from the break, we got to take a break now. I'm here with our brand new fire chief. I think everybody thought that was going to happen at some point. You have that presence, and you were filling the position of deputy chief, doing a great job. And I think it wasn't a foregone conclusion, but it was in my mind. And we on the by the way on the taxing district board voted unanimously to have Ron Palmer Jr. promoted to follow his dad into the chief's chair at the Willimantic Fire Department. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Hey, Dennis O'Brien, I'm back, and I'm very happy to be here today with our brand new chief of fire department, Ron Palmer Jr. He's here right after the wonderful night we had last night at the town hall, where he was pinned with his among other things, your father's badge. That must have been is that it right there?
This is not it. Actually, this is probably my deputy chief's badge, admittedly.
Okay.
But I can't tell. Yeah, this is my deputy chief's badge. So the story with my father's badge, when he passed away, I was able to get back, a lot of his effects. Most of it had sentimental meaning to me. Most of his fire department uniforms, badges, and things of that nature. And I thought about it. I said, wow, I wonder if I can find that badge. So I did some looking around in my basement, and I did find it. It was still attached to his dress uniform that I had in a garment bag hanging up. And I really thought long and hard about this, and I said, I have to. I have to take his badge, and I have to use that, and I have to wear it. I'm sure you knew prior to, but not a lot of people would know, but my father had an identical twin brother. They were both firefighters. They did everything together. They served in the United States Navy. They went to Vietnam together. I mean, it was everything they did. They mirrored each other. So my uncle lives in Wellington, and he was able to be there with us last night and put his brother's badge, my father's badge, onto me last night to kind of complete the circle. And what a great feeling. A lot of emotions. Couldn't be happier.
It was great to see him last night. I really don't know him that well, but I knew your father, and your father was a really nice guy. He was a very friendly guy. He was easy to talk to. He was. What years was he the chief?
So John Walsh was the chief. He retired in 2005. My father was his deputy.
Right.
And then so from 2005 to 2006, my father was an interim chief.
Yes.
And then in 2006, he became permanent, and he worked for 4 years. Unfortunately, he had developed cancer and decided to retire so that he could focus on his treatment and, having some type of retirement. So 2006 to 2010, he was the permanent fire chief.
Yeah, I remember encountering him when I was in the town hall, and I'd see him in the town hall from time to time when I was the judge then, and and he was always very nice and friendly. Some people you run into them and you just light up because they have that kind of personality.
Yeah.
And he was like, and just seeing his brother there last night, who looks exactly like him.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Identical twins, both in the fire service. One chief in Willimantic, the other was like his deputy chief in Mansfield. Was Yukon?
Correct. Yeah. Yukon.
Yeah.
Yep. And he also volunteered before Mansfield consolidated their fire departments. They had the Eagleville Volunteer Department. They had the Mansfield Department.
I remember that. I was the town attorney there.
Yeah. So my uncle Rich was he held a bunch of different ranks, but ultimately he was the chief of Eagleville for a while, as well as the deputy chief at Yukon. So he had a dual role in the same town, so to speak.
Right.
And then later on, he was the fire marshal in the town of Wellington. Which he finally retired officially from everything a few years back.
Yeah, well, it was great to see him there last night. I'm sure it was wonderful for you to have him there, and you had you delayed the ceremony for a while to get the family together, and then I know after I couldn't make it, but after I'm sure it was packed. After you said you had that room is not that big.
Yeah, no, it was a great turnout. I actually had a lot of people that reached out to me via text message or phone call
Yeah.
that said, hey, something come up, I'm not going to be able to be there,
Well,
which is understandable. You know, it's tough. 6 o'clock on a Thursday night, it's tough for a lot of people. But the turnout was amazing. I thought the whole process, the whole ceremony was how I would have envisioned it, and it came to fruition. I just couldn't be happier. My family is just ecstatic about the whole thing.
Yolanda got it all on tape, and you're going to want to look at that
Yeah.
20 years from now.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, it's great because she did a good job, and I just watched it. It was about 50 minutes long, and I saw the whole thing. I've experienced the ceremony twice.
That's
So,
great. That's
that was
great.
really
Yeah, so you have one more than me.
Yeah, I do now. Yeah,
Yeah.
And then I saw the interview that you did with Yolanda, and I
Yeah.
said, "Doggone it, Yolanda beat me to the punch." She got it first, but her interview was not as long as this one.
Correct.
Okay, this is a longer show. Anyway, yeah, I just think this is marvelous. And another thing that you see at ceremonies like this, you see the support you get from the police department, the police department and the fire department. From my vantage point, which is not, I don't have a 20/20 vision on it because I'm not there, and I'm still learning. You seem to be working together as a team.
Absolutely.
and that's I think that's essential.
Yeah, wholeheartedly essential. And, I think we've worked really hard over the years to strengthen that relationship. A lot of our call volume there's a lot of crossover. It could start out as a police matter and turn into an EMS matter, or it could start out as a fire or EMS call, and the police are needed there. So there's a lot of crossover with our call volumes. And, I think at the end of the day, Dennis, I mean, we're working as a first responder. It doesn't matter what community you're in. The demand on the services is probably the largest it's ever been in probably the history of the United States. The call volumes in all communities are very high. And depending on the social climate of that generation or that decade, tends to have an impact on the emergency services. Right now, the fire department is doing really well, with all things considered. At least speaking for Willimantic, our staffing level is right where it needs to be, and we're doing well with it. The police department is a little behind at the moment. Understandably, they've gone through a tough stretch. They're competing against other communities. So it's important to support them off of the emergency scene as well. So you see that last night. We had a really good representation from the police department. That means a lot to me. I do consider them my friends, and I give them as much support in return as I can. And you have to do that. It's good for camaraderie. It's good for mental health. It just has a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I could go on with you for a couple of hours. I'll tell you. Another thing I wanted to talk about was how much time do we have, Matt?
15 minutes.
15? Good. Okay.
Plenty of time.
I want to
Plenty
get
of time.
into the autism thing.
Yeah.
That I left the probate court in January of 2011 after serving 12 years, and I got a lot of training in a lot of these things about emergency services and stuff like that, about child development and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't know that much about autism. And I learned from going to one of our meetings when you guys were talking about autism and how it impacts the work you do, emergency services work.
Sure.
And I guess you're talking about you already have a social worker, right?
We do, yeah. He just started this year. He's only been on a couple of months. And I believe he's already had about 17 cases. Don't quote me on those numbers.
Sure.
But he's closed some of his cases, but he still has some open cases. Right now the primary focus is on people who are becoming more dependent on the EMS system for a lot of their needs.
Sure.
Which that's the target audience, is that we want to get them the help and shift them away from being dependent on emergency services for their needs. So that's his primary focus right now, is working with our community partners and a lot of our organizations to get people the help they need to be less dependent on calling 911 for something, as simple as they just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
How that translates into the autism awareness, it's still in growth. It's still growing.
Yeah.
But the goal I think the town has is that they want to make sure that parents have an opportunity to have resources for their children with developmental disabilities and specifically autism. So what we've done is we've had an opportunity at a grant that we got, which is allowing us to train first responders, teachers, and other town staff that are interested, so that we know how to interact with people with autism so that we can help them. And how it relates to emergency services is that if they're having a medical emergency or some other type of emergency and we respond, we want to be able to recognize early on so that we can interact in a way that helps them understand. And that will then translate into getting them the best service we can, whether it's transporting them to the hospital, meeting the need of the situation, or trying to mitigate the emergency.
Well, we're being joined now by State Representative Susan Johnson.
Hey, how are you?
I couldn't miss this to congratulate the chief.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
I appreciate that.
Great,
Thank you.
great,
Am I in your
great.
seat?
Well, no.
No, all right, we're going to proceed.
You just
Okay.
go ahead.
You
and-
just
All right.
figure it out, Susan. You can take this mic here. And we'll just, you
Let's
came
talk
late,
about
so.
one of my favorite topics.
Oh, I know
That
it.
is addressing the fact that we now have a social worker,
Yes.
and you're dealing with the autism spectrum disorder, which is something that a lot of people. We have more people with autism and developmental disabilities in a home setting now.
Right.
That we didn't have historically, and I think that having the social worker, it means that we're adjusting to something that the legislature probably put into effect about 30 years ago, and has been increasing and increasing as we understand how to diagnose whether or not somebody has autism or some other type of developmental disability. So
Right.
I'm just thrilled to think that we have that kind of work here, and it's an excellent thing, and I'm very proud of the community because of it.
Right. Yeah, and I think May 3rd, I believe, is the target date. They're going to do an event. I believe it's going to be at the community center. We're going to utilize the Jolson parcel for a walk. There's going to be a lot of things going on. The town's well involved in that. I know the fire department's going to have a presence there. It's more just to kind of get the message out of what we're trying to accomplish, and it's going to have a lot of resources available for parents so that they understand that they're not alone. Because I think the message that we're hearing and a lot of the training that we've been receiving to this point is that there hasn't been a lot of awareness for the resources that are out there. And it's easy for parents with an autistic child to kind of feel alone. So we're trying to get the message out there, make resources available. May 3rd, unless the date changes, is going to be that day here in Windham.
Okay, well, I wanted to, there's one topic I wanted to get to for sure, and that was when Mark Scrivener spoke. I didn't mention that, but Mark Scrivener spoke and spoke very well, as he does.
He does. Yep.
He's articulate, very articulate, just like you, just like Scott Card. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
It was very good.
Appreciate that.
And I've done a lot of speaking, and so does she. And we, I know good speaking when I see it. It was very good.
Thank you.
Like I said, I wouldn't watch it twice if it wasn't that good.
I was really, I think I told you last night, I was pretty stressed out leading up to last
You
night
didn't
because,
look stressed.
just when you put your remarks together, you just want to make sure you're doing a good job and that you're going to get your points across and that you're going to hit a lot of the highlights. And yeah, I do stress about that because I want to make sure that I'm projecting an articulate message. But not talking over people, but not also talking under people. I want to be talking at people. So it was a little nervous leading up to last night.
Yeah, didn't show, and it worked out very well. Anyway, Mark talked about the role of the deputy chief and the role of the chief.
Yeah.
And he talked about how when you came on, he was able to do the role of the chief, which, as he put it, is interacting with the town manager, with the community, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So so you were carrying the ball on the internal management of the agency.
Yeah, and sometimes don't let the chief sell you short either. He was still very involved in everything that was
sure he
going on.
was.
But I think to his point, it gives him an opportunity to be more visible, be more transparent for elected officials.
Right.
Because sometimes that's easy to get lost because everybody's busy and we have busy schedules. So making himself outwardly available to other agencies that may have common interests as emergency responders And then having that deputy chief that has a more inward focus, as he likes to phrase it, which is the operations, the day-to-day meat and potatoes of the department. So, but yeah, I know he definitely is very well aware of what was going on, but he definitely gave me a lot of latitude to work, and I am truly indebted and appreciative of that.
He took advantage of your skills. He took advantage of your leadership skills, managerial skills, and you guys made a great team. It was great. And I think it's I know you're going to want to fill that position of deputy.
Absolutely.
I think you could do both jobs because of your experience doing being the deputy for so long and having all that internal responsibility. But that's.
I think our town needs to have a deputy and a chief.
Thank you. I agree.
And
There you go, right there.
I also want to say that the connection with the community is something that the police have done in conjunction with Chief Scrivener, getting the leadership council, the Wyndham Leadership Program for the students. And when we had the chance, the chief also put together the EMT course at Wyndham High.
Right.
And so for the students to come out as an EMT, or for the students to come out with leadership or something to do, be able to report on this back to the school, have these experiences with real live operations is really very important. And is part of, I think, what we're all trying to recapture, and that is a sense of community.
Yes.
And I have to give my granddaughter a plug
Come
because she
on.
became an EMT when she was 16.
That's fantastic.
And I am so proud of her. And she had been volunteering with the volunteer fire departments here in the villages. She now is at Fordham University, and she wants to be a doctor.
The Bronx.
She's like your son.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the Bronx.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's not.
Excellent.
He's at
He's at
St.
St.
John's
John's.
down in Queens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
but he got his EMT as well, and he works part time here at Wyndham Hospital in the emergency room as a tech. But ultimately, his focus is now on med school. So
Yeah, hers
That's
is
similar
too.
path. Similar path.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. She's part time up at the Mansfield Community Center as a lifeguard.
Lifeguard,
Awesome.
Because she got
Awesome.
that training as well.
Good
so
stuff.
the Grammy's very proud.
Yes, he should be. He should be.
Yeah. Proud of me too. Right?
I am proud of you.
Okay, and I'm
proud of him too.
And I'm proud
our
of the
new
chief.
Yeah.
I'll tell you,
very good.
I think this is going to be great. I think this is. I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Yeah.
And because I'm so pleased with my experiences on the taxing district board of directors, Bill Sayers just asked me if I was going to run again. I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to be 82 in July, but I said, yeah, I think so. I think I want to see this through, and I want to do whatever I can to help. Enhance public safety in the town because it's so vitally important. I mean, it's basic.
Yeah.
And you guys do such a great job, and I actually enjoy the interactions and stuff, and it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed interacting with Mark over the years, and I'm hoping that you'll come back from time to time and give us a report on an update on what's
Absolutely.
going on and whatnot. I think it's. We have a lot of listeners, and it's good for the community to you're gonna have to get out there. You've got the personality for it, and it'll work real well.
I tell you, if you don't invite me back, I'm going to be disappointed.
Well, you got to come back and be on the
we-
show with us. And we're going to want to hear an update on everything that's
Of
going on
course.
in the town. And it's one of the things that really gives the people a sense of community when they have that safety, when they know that you're just a call away if there's a fire or if there's somebody having some type of a health problem. This gives the people that sense of community, and we don't want them to take it for granted. We want to have them hear about it because it's something that we just have to keep reinforcing. If you don't go out and talk to the people about what it is that you've done and what we have, they may forget or just think it's in the background somehow.
Sure, absolutely,
So
yeah.
it's an important thing, and
I agree.
I've learned that over the years.
You guys have also done a great job of recruiting.
We
Okay,
have.
so you're not in the same bind that the police are in. Maybe it's harder to recruit for the police. I don't know.
They have a couple extra steps in their recruitment process that we don't have.
Yeah.
That tends to be a big obstacle for candidates looking for entry level employment. What we've done is we have done a couple of things. One thing we have done is we've relied on the people that are working with us now to make recommendations. People that they know that say, hey, you're a firefighter. Yeah, that's correct. How do I get involved in that? So we're taking a lot of referrals. And those referrals tend to work out the best because we believe that if somebody's going to make a referral for somebody that may potentially be working with them in the future, they know the person, they're vouching for them ahead of time. It makes our job a little bit easier. It's a tough vocation. Some people, it comes natural, and other people have to work at it. To find that balance is what's important at the end of the day. But yes, locally, word of mouth. We do encourage people to stop down in the fire department, reach out to us. We'll be happy to give them a tour, especially if they're doing EMT training. We've actually had EMT students come and do ride-alongs on the ambulance. And we seem to kind of get the feedback of, I want to do more. So at that point is kind of when we take that next step and offer them an opportunity to take an aptitude test, which is online now. So you can actually do it from your house. You don't have to show up on a Saturday morning and take it in the high school cafeteria.
Yeah.
So we have made a lot of changes to try to accommodate the younger generation, to try to keep them engaged and wanting to be a first responder.
That's great. And you also have all that great equipment down there.
We do.
Those beautiful vehicles. Those things are amazing.
We do. We really are blessed, and we do our best to maintain them and keep them up. That's just being good stewards with our taxpayer money. Is
Always
what it
looking
is.
very shiny and new and clean.
We do our best. We try.
Very impressive.
Yes.
And the fire department of Willimantic is incredibly impressive, folks. And I know a lot more about it now than I did 2 years ago. And I'm on board. I'm on board. I've always been on board. I got on board big time in 2006 when we had that horrible fire. That you guys did a marvelous job of saving that house for that girl that's at Fordham. And
She was 6 months old then.
Oh my goodness.
she was just a baby. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
This show is popular because we have great guests.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank you.
I was delighted when you said you could do the show so soon after the pinning ceremony.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
you. Much
Thank you
appreciated.
so
My
much.
pleasure, and you better invite me back.
Ron
We-
Palmer
absolutely. You're
Jr.
gonna
Ron
come
Palmer Jr. Our new but very experienced chief of police in Willimantic,
Chief of
and
fire.
he's going to do a great job. And
Fire.
fire. What did I say? Fire chief?
You said police.
I did.
Yeah. Maybe.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's got enough
He's
to
our
do with
fire
the fire
chief.
department.
All right, and we're
Okay.
really thrilled that
Okay.
we have our new Chief Palmer, who is our great fire chief.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, Chief. We'll be back next week with another great show.